Chevy greatest transmission that became the biggest betrayal of the muscle car era. It is 1966. You dump the clutch in a 3,600-pound Chevelle SS, and instead of hooking up, you hear a deafening metallic crack echoing off the pavement. If you have ever stood under streetlights, staring at a puddle of gear oil bleeding onto the asphalt, you know the exact heartbreak we are talking about. This was not a cheap junkyard failure. This was the Borg-Warner T10. Debuting as RPO 685 in 1957, it was a $188.30 premium option, quietly costing the exact same as a Powerglide automatic. Championed by Corvette mastermind Zora Arkus Duntov, it was so exclusive only 664 cars got it. Yet, its history is messy from day one. Records cannot even agree if it dropped on April 9th or May 1st. Why did this factory-approved masterpiece shatter under real street conditions? This was not just a broken part, it was proof that the factory legend you trusted could betray you. If you have ever grenaded a gearbox, hit like, share this with a fellow wrench, and drop your carnage story in the comments below. By 1968, look in the back corner of any serious performance shop, and you would find the graveyard. A jagged pile of aluminum husks and sheared teeth that used to be T10 units. Mechanics were actively warning guys pulling in with big blocks. Feather the throttle on the 1 to 2 shift, or you are walking home. Haul one of these blown units onto the bench for a forensic teardown. You identify it like an old-school wrench, the 9-bolt D-shaped side cover, the 10-spline 1.125-inch input shaft. When you crack the case, the factory myth dies. The popular street lore is that the gears were just too weak, but the autopsy reveals something far more violent. The gears did not just shear, they literally climbed over each other. Why? Because under heavy torque, the lightweight aluminum case did not just house the internals, it stretched. Helical teeth generate axial thrust, an invisible lateral force pushing the gears apart along the main shaft. As that brutal torque shock forced the aluminum case to deflect by mere thousandths of an inch, the main shaft and countershaft were shoved out of alignment. The precision mesh dissolved, and the gearbox exploded from the inside out. And here is why guys still argue at car shows today. While early Corvettes used those flexing aluminum cases, some early full-size GM cars quietly got cast iron T10 units. So my T10 survived and my T10 grenaded are actually both true statements. It just depended on which metal they sold you. Let us rewind to 1957. Chevrolet Corvette needed a lifeline, and Zora Arkus Duntov demanded a lightweight manual transmission to capture the performance market. Borg-Warner delivered the T10 as RPO 685. It was a $188.30 premium option, quietly costing the exact same as a Powerglide automatic. And it was so exclusive only 664 cars got it that first year. But here is the engineering sleight of hand they did not put in the brochures. The T10 was not a bespoke clean sheet 4-speed. It was a clever mechanical hack of Borg-Warner existing T85 3-speed. To avoid reinventing the wheel, engineers shoved the reverse gear into the aluminum tail housing, freeing up just enough physical space in the main case to cram in a synchronized fourth forward gear within the exact same footprint. It was a brilliant scalpel, perfectly matched to a lightweight fiberglass car and a 283 V8, pushing a modest 285 pound-feet of torque. With a close ratio gear set of 2.20, 1.66, 1.31, and 1.00, it utilized deep-cut helical gears to deliver whisper-quiet, buttery, smooth shifts. In its original environment, the T10 was an undeniable masterpiece of 1950s engineering. But in the shadows, Detroit was secretly building heavy metal monsters, and this is exactly where everything started to go wrong. The betrayal did not happen because Borg-Warner forgot how to build a transmission. It happened because Detroit rewrote the math. In 1957, the T10 was asked to handle a 283 cubic inch V8, pushing 285 pound-feet of torque. But as the 1960s horsepower wars erupted, the environment shifted from lightweight fiberglass to heavy steel. Suddenly, the exact same transmission architecture was facing 400-plus cubic inch monsters throwing down 500 pound-feet of torque. Worse, the drag racing scene brought sticky rear tires into the equation. Because the tires no longer spun freely to relieve driveline tension, the transmission absorbed the full violent shock of the launch. The street reality was brutal. Weekend warriors were grenading these boxes at the drag strip on Sunday, then spending a grease-stained night in a gravel driveway, swapping in a fresh unit just to make the Monday morning shift. Look at how the factories behaved behind closed doors. In 1963, Dodge and Plymouth offered the Borg-Warner 4-speed, but they deliberately restricted it to their smaller engines. Why? Because they knew the brutal 426 max wedge would have shattered the T10 under drag racing duress. Meanwhile, Pontiac kept shoving the T10 into heavy 1964 full-size cars. This was not an engineering choice, it was a desperate supply chain loophole. Muncie production simply could not meet assembly line demand. The T10 was no longer a performance upgrade, it was a stopgap. So thrust into a heavy metal gunfight, it was never designed to win. And this is the moment everything you thought you knew about this transmission falls apart. To understand why a celebrated 1957 masterpiece detonated under 1966 muscle, you have to look past the broken teeth and focus on the physics, specifically axial thrust. To achieve the whisper-quiet, luxurious shifting that the 1950s market demanded, Borg-Warner cut the T10 helical gears at an aggressive 30-degree angle. It is brilliant for smooth engagement, but it generates a violent byproduct, lateral force. Here is the brutal math, translated for the garage. When you drive a 30-degree gear cut, the tangent of that angle dictates the thrust. That multiplier is roughly 0.577. What does that mean for your drivetrain? It means a staggering 58% of the rotational load applied to the gear set is not going to your rear tires, it is acting like an internal crowbar, physically pushing the gears away from each other along the main shaft. Hit that setup with a 500-pound-foot torque shock from a big block on sticky tires, and that immense lateral pressure forces the main shaft and countershaft apart. The aluminum case, which measures its deflection tolerance in mere thousandths of an inch, stretches violently. Add the thermal expansion of hot aluminum to that physical stretch, and the gears literally unmesh. The load concentrates entirely on the brittle tips of the teeth, triggering an instantaneous internal explosion. The supreme irony of the Borg-Warner T10, the exact engineering feature, that 30-degree cut that made it a smooth, shifting masterpiece on the street, was the precise physical mechanism tearing its case apart on the drag strip. If the physics were failing so spectacularly, why did guys keep paying good money for them? It comes down to halo arithmetic. Because it began as an exclusive option on the '57 Corvette, the T10 was cemented as the gold standard of performance. The brochures screamed factory heavy-duty. But marketing has a funny way of creating false memories. Chrysler-owned Heritage Archives reveal an infamous Ramchargers 4-speed advertisement that illustrated a black color scheme the racing team never actually built. It sparked a decades-long hunt among purists for a phantom long-lost black car. That is exactly how the T10 survived the muscle era. The printed myth simply outlived the mechanical reality. Borg-Warner scrambled behind the scenes, applying engineering band-aids like high-nickel alloy gears and larger main drive geometry in their later Super T10 iterations. But for the guys sweeping aluminum chunks off the starting line in 1966, those fixes were too little, too late. By 1964, Ford and Chrysler stopped pretending refinement won races. They looked at the flexing 66-pound aluminum T10 and decided to build strictly for survival. Enter the Iron Giants. Ford unleashed the top-loader. While the T10 twisted its anemic 1 1/8-inch input shaft, Ford engineers weaponized a 90-pound nodular cast iron case equipped with a massive 1 3/8-inch input shaft. To be fair, even giants have skeletons in the closet. Early 25-spline top-loader output shafts were actually known to twist before Ford was forced to beef them up. But the case itself was an absolute anvil. Chrysler answered with the new process Chrysler A833. They ignored weight savings entirely and pushed brute force geometry, engineering a massive 3.5-inch center distance between the shafts. This allowed for physically thicker gears that simply would not deflect under high torque, making the Chrysler A833 nearly twice as strong as the compact T10. The reality check on the street was brutal. While weekend warriors were sweeping up grenaded T10 chunks after Sunday test and tunes, top-loaders and Chrysler A833 were surviving entire drag racing seasons. The strongest transmissions in the muscle era were not the smoothest. They were the ones that survived. So how did racers survive the carnage? Some used torches. Drag icon Bill Jenkins literally welded a Chevrolet input shaft onto a massive Ford-sourced T10M just to keep his driveline from detonating. But General Motors needed a factory loophole. Rather than designing a 90-pound iron anvil, GM engineers just hacked the physics. Enter the Muncie M22 Rock Crusher. They dropped the steep 30-degree gear, cut down to a straighter approximately 20-degree helix angle. This single mathematical trick virtually eliminated the destructive axial thrust that was stretching aluminum cases. The trade-off: the straighter gears meshed violently, whining like a banshee. The ultimate documentary twist? GM did not even engineer those 20-degree gears for drag strip strength. They did it to reduce road racing heat. See, drag racers just co-opted the M22 because a screaming gearbox was better than a silent, shattered T10. The Borg-Warner T10 remains a legend, but one defined by a tragic lack of evolution. It did not fail because it was inherently garbage. It failed because it was a refined instrument of the 1950s, forced to fight a 1960s war of brute force. It represents the exact historical moment when Detroit realized that smooth and light refinement had to die so that strong and heavy durability could live. It was a precision scalpel thrust into a heavy metal gunfight, outpaced by an era that demanded iron survival over aluminum grace. But if you were turning wrenches back then, you already know the truth. Every old-school mechanic has a story of community-shared trauma involving this gearbox. Did you ever sidestep the clutch and leave a shimmering puddle of T10 gear oil at the starting line? How many shattered units did you stack behind your shop before you finally gave up and swapped in a top-loader or a Muncie? We want the receipts. Drop your engine specs, your launch RPM, and your ultimate carnage stories in the comments below.